Welcome to another edition of the Outstanding People podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support week after week. It really means a lot to me. This is an important episode. I am talking to a gentleman named JR. He is the founder of the Veterans Ranch down in Florida. And what they do is they're a nonprofit organization that dedicates themselves to helping veterans with PTSD using equine therapy. In this country alone, we lose 44 veterans a day to suicide. 44 veterans a day are taking their own lives. We need to change that. We need to make mental health a priority in this country. We need to make it the forefront of every conversation. The Veterans Ranch is doing everything they can to help. To date, they have helped over 1,500 veterans. JR is just an outstanding individual. He is not a veteran, but he dedicates himself to serving those who have served. He is a true patriot. I enjoyed my conversation with him. He has a lot of great things to say, a lot of good information. If you want to help the Veterans Ranch, you can go to theveteransranch.org. Any little bit you can give helps. It is such an important foundation, and it's such an important issue. This is the Outstanding People podcast with JR and the Veterans Ranch. Hey, JR.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
It is Monday, man. Whew, goodness. Doing great, though. I mean, I can't complain. It's just a lot of great stuff going on.
Well, listen, I'm so happy you're here, because, anytime I get a chance to talk about something that helps veterans, I'm ecstatic about it. And, we got linked up through LinkedIn and, we got to talking and I heard about the Veterans Ranch, and I just thought it was such an amazing organization that you have. I wanted to have you on the podcast and talk a little about it. So I guess let's start off by explain or give me the top line of what the Veterans Ranch is, and then we'll kind of get into more detail on how it works and your background. But let's start with that. What exactly is the Veterans Ranch?
So the Veterans Ranch was formed in 2017 by myself and my wife, who are proud Patriots, and my father, who's a Vietnam veteran. We were sick and tired of hearing bad stories about the VA, veterans not getting taken care of, and what we knew at the time is 17 to 22 a day veteran suicide rate. So when we started the Veterans Ranch, back then, the mission's the same as it is today. And that's free equine therapy services for veterans and immediate household family members for as long as they need. Not conflict specific, not you don't have to just be injured or admit PTS or anything like that. Y'all signed your name on the dotted line. It's the only payment we need. So if you're still off World War II, Korea, Vietnam, up to just transitioning out today, we're wanting to take you on and have some fun with some horses.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. And I was about to say, so equine therapy is basically therapy using horses. And how does that work? What do the horses do for the veterans suffering from PTSD or emotional issues? What is the therapy that they're getting from that?
Well, it's a mental thing. Everything we focus on is on the mental attributes of what goes on. Because horses are extremely intuitive animals. They literally can feel a gnat land on their back, and they do know everything about you 10 plus feet away. We call them blood pumping mirrors, right? They're going to reflect back what you've got coming, nervousness, anxiety, fear. I mean, there's a size to weight ratio issue. If you're some city slickers, never been around horses before, could be a little on the intimidating side, but we're going to get you introduced to that horse. And 9 times out of 10, for everybody out here that knows, the horse picks you. You don't pick the horse. And we're gonna put a grooming brush in your hand. Now, what does that do? Get your mind right. I did sales training for a whole lot of years. Been self-employed since I was probably about 18. And we'd always tell you in sales training, leave your baggage at the door. It'll be there when you get back. Right? If you act like you got to pay your light bill, your customers are going to know it and they ain't going to buy from you. In the veteran side of things, we want there to be less baggage to pick up when you get, back to the door, if you will. So when you're putting that grooming brush in your hand, you're working that rhythmic motion of building a bond of trust with an animal. One, it's a task you have to complete. We learn that from veterans. I come from the perspective of wearing cowboy boots, never wore combat boots. So everything we talk about is what we've learned from veterans themselves. Be very clear with that. We never try and act like, hey, we've been there, done that.
Sure.
My dad can, I can't.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that too,
Yeah.
and we'll get back to that, just because you have a great definition of how you got the moniker the Patriot. You and your wife are Patriots. Where did that come from? And obviously, they're Patriot. Everyone knows the word Patriot, but you have a special meaning for that. What is that?
Yeah. It was an interesting thing. I had a veteran ask me one time, "Are you a Patriot?" And, I grew up Vietnam father, World War II grandfather, post-Depression parents. Patriotic is what I thought he meant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm the most patriotic son of a gun you're ever going to meet in your life, And he's like, no, no, no. Let me explain to you. He said, there is a real term. And he said, you're the 99% that support the 1% that wore the uniform. And I'm here to tell you, to everybody out there that knows, call that my Trident, call that my Ranger tab, call that whatever you want to call it. I wear that rank, if you will, with huge honor of being a Patriot.
Oh, that's amazing. And thank you for doing that. I wish more people would walk in your shoes and in your footsteps, instead of talking about helping veterans, actually do something about it. So thanks for doing that. And I didn't mean to cut you off on your other. So you were saying that as they're building a bond with the horse, that leads to just this connection, and that helps with that's part of the therapy.
Really is, because, to all our horse lovers out here, watching this or listening right now, you're going to understand if you had a bad day, you can go groom your horse for an hour and you're going to feel better when you're done, right? You just forget about the world. And I've done that in a lot of things in my life. I used to drag race and autocross when I played football in high school, hockey, believe it or not, this big guy was a goalie. You get in that zone where you start forgetting about the world for a while. Any problems you got, any issues you're dealing with. And that's what that does. And it really just helps you, because look, horses want to know two things. Are you strong enough to be my leader? And are you going to hurt me? They're pack animals and prey animals. All they can do is bite you or kick you. Now, don't get me wrong, it hurts like hell if that happens to you. But out in the wild, that's not much of a defense mechanism, right? So their fight or flight is flight 99% of the time. And we're no different as humans.
Right.
Some, in a lot of cases, what do? We compartmentalize, we shove it down, meaning we'd rather get away from the situation than deal with the situation. So this allows you to start building that bond of trust in a really nonverbal communication, right? You can talk to a horse, it can't talk back. I mean, it kind of does, you deal with horses long enough, you know what that horse is talking about.
I would imagine you start to learn mannerisms, right? On both sides, from the veteran and the horse, they start to learn each other's mannerisms. Maybe it's not verbal, but it's definitely there is a physical attraction.
Yeah. We see it all the time. You'll see, I'll give you a quick story example.
Sure.
A couple of years back, we had a gentleman, we were doing a trail ride, and we do a few a year. 99% of what we do is called groundwork, but we'll do a few trail rides a year for folks that have been with us for a while. Get out, let's just have some fun. Get on horses and just go have some fun. Well, wife come out, she was medically retired Air Force, but she rode dressage for like 20 years. She was in her element. Well, all of a sudden her husband comes with her. And you could tell he was drugged there. He did not want to be there. He was active duty Air Force, which, hey, no problem, right? Come one, come all, no big deal. We'll just throw an extra horse out there. Mm-hmm. But we could tell there was something about him. He was very uneasy about being there. So we paired him with the most gentle horse we had there. It was a Belgian, okay? For everybody who doesn't know Belgian, it's a draft horse, or basically a comparison. Take a Budweiser Clydesdale. We all know what they look like. Sure. Shrink it down a little bit. There's a Belgian.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We measure horses in hands like this. 1 hand, 2 hand, 3, from hoof up to withers or shoulders. I'm 6'4". I'm looking at withers. Okay. I eyeball the shoulders. This dude was 5'5" with boots on. He's looking at ribs. Okay. Now, wife comes over, we're getting everybody paired up in the arena, making sure they're comfortable with their particular horse. Wife comes over, Jerry, got to help me. He's freaking out, cursing me out, wants to go home. I knew what it was. He was scared.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's admittedly 5'5", big horse. He probably weighed 1,700 pounds.
Wow.
So again, I will never talk to a veteran like I've been there, done that, or active duty. So we always have veterans with us. I brought a Marine with me. Okay. Now, as we all know, Marines love to make fun of everybody that's not a Marine, but especially airmen. I'll still clean it up for the audience just in case there's younger ears around and how he said this. Because I'm looking at him like, you got this? He's like, oh, I got this. I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-oh.
Like, okay, you got this. He comes up to him. He's like, the F's wrong with you, Airman. You wuss. You can't get up on a horse here to go to Okinawa, and you can't get up on a horse. Now, I knew what he was doing, so I was trying not to laugh. Uniform to uniform. He had to break him down, get his mind off freaking out about that horse, put him in a mindset he understood.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't do that very long because we didn't want to make the situation worse. We started laughing and said, dude, what's wrong with you? 10 minutes ago, you were fine. And we all know the acronym for fine, and active duty and veterans tend to make the F colorful, so we'll leave that alone. But, the point is, he said, guys, I'm from the Bronx. We're all dying laughing. It's all he had to say. He said, look, I never saw the mounted patrol dogs running through the neighborhood were strays, and you want me to get up on this monstrosity? Right. Long story short, we get him on the horse. We get him comfortable. He not only went on one ride, he went on the second ride. His wife was in tears because, there was a new bond between them now. As he would never tell her why he wouldn't do horse stuff. And so now he could go back to Okinawa and, stick his chest out a little more. Mm-hmm. We had fun with him at this point, though. When he was out on the second ride, y'all got to understand, a Belgian is a good 2 feet wide. Okay. Again, at 6'4", I don't ride a Belgian for a while. I'm walking a little funny.
Yeah.
Here's a dude who's never been on a horse, and now he's been on this big dude for 2 hours. We asked the owner if he had a bag of frozen peas. We were going to mess with it. And, because he came out off the first ride, and he asked if he could go on the second ride. He was already walking a little funny after the first ride. So he comes back off the second one. We're like, hey, there's a third ride. You want to go on? No, I'm good. Well, there really wasn't a third ride. We were messing with him. We chucked him the bag of frozen peas. He's like, F you guys, but thanks. We built that bond of trust. Yeah. We broke him down. He loves us. Now is he the horseman of horsemen? Probably not, but he's a lot more comfortable with him than he was the day he showed up.
Sure, and he crossed a barrier in his own mind that was a huge step for him. Because and it's the great example here is you never know where somebody's from or what their background is or what their issue is. And like with this guy, he'd never been around a horse before, and like you said, you see something that big and you're 5'5", naturally you're going to be scared. But that's awesome that you guys were able to do that. I was going to ask, how long is the bonding period? Like, how long does it take? And maybe it's different for everyone, but typically, how long does it take for when you get a veteran coming in and you pair them up with a horse? What is the time frame for that bonding period?
You're absolutely right. It is different for everyone. And here's how it's different for everyone. How much you're willing to give of yourself to the program or give yourself to the horse. Okay. The way I explain it to civilians is that when they were in boot camp, okay, and everybody out here can relate to this, you got 4 drill instructors yelling 4 different orders at you at the same time that you have to obey, using words your mother never used. And, you gotta figure this all out. You got to give yourself to the process really quick, or it's going to be a real bad time for you. Well, it's not a bad time, but you're going to get out of it what you put in it.
Sure.
Okay. Another quick example. We did a thing last year. We're doing a lot of liberty training where it's you, a horse, a round pen, and a training flag. That's it. No lead rope, no halter. You cannot tug on that horse and make it bend to your will. We had a young man drove 4 hours to come to this event. So we knew he had something he was really wanting to work on. I'll speed this up. We get him into the arena. We're trying to get him to relax. If I tell y'all out there to relax about 10 times in a row, the exact opposite happens.
Right.
He was trying to whisper and his jaw was just so tight. He goes, I am relaxing. Well, that horse, she pinned her ears back. She's like, whoa, hey, I don't know what's up with this guy, but I don't want any part of it. He wanted to quit. We're like, oh no. Now, we didn't have as many people show up to this event as supposed to due to some weather. So 3 veterans, and this is where I love y'all, still serving and supporting each other, even after you hang up the uniform. They said, hey, we'll give up our turn to after lunch. This guy needs to do it. He needs to do something. We worked with him for an hour and a half. Oh. We had him eventually going shoulder to shoulder around the round pen with the horse, like 2 buddies going to have a beer, stopped and turned and go the other way. And we said, now trot. And he goes, what's trot? You city slicker, jog. Yeah. So we get him to jog a little bit, and the horse trotted about 3 steps with him. And he goes, she didn't do it that much. She was a beautiful white mare. For everybody old enough, she looked like Silver from the Lone Ranger.
Sure.
Okay. Wow. A gorgeous horse. And he said, you have no idea how much trust it took for her to do that, because you changed up what you were doing. You went from walking at a relatively brisk pace to a trot now. And she started jogging. We get him back to the center of the arena, taught him how to shut down, slouch, kick a hip out, put your head down. Don't even look at the horse. Again, to the boot camp analogy, you learned, it became rote memory when they stopped hollering at you and you could process everything. It's called learning in the release. And that's how horses learn. So she's standing on the other side of the round pen. All of a sudden, she starts licking her lips. We're like, see, now she's liking it. You're leaving her alone. She's learning what you taught her, and just stand there, barely breathe. Don't even move. Within 5 minutes, she comes up and puts her nose right in his chest. Oh. And I mean, I'm telling you, there wasn't a dry eye in a round pen, because this young man broke down like he was 2. It was a watershed moment.
Oh, wow.
And, another thing we do real fast is we do campfires at night. Okay. You'll share things with folks around a campfire you ain't told folks in your whole life.
I love that.
We give you little notebooks where you got to write down names and numbers, because sure, you can put it in your phone, but 2 seconds later, you'll forget it. When you write with intention, there's more power and it sticks. And we also ask you to write down something you need to let go of. So you stand up in front of the fire, you rip that page out. You can share if you want. We never force anybody to. This young man did. And his story made the other 2 veterans share. And when you throw the page in the fire and the words burn, they're gone. You got to let it go. Okay. That's first step in a 1,000-mile journey. Because if it was that easy, we'd all just be around a campfire every night, flushing everything out.
100%.
But the coolest part about that is I was the only civilian around the campfire that night. So 3, they were like, man, thank you for, I'm like, whoa, no. They're like, we shouldn't thank you? Like, let me be real clear. It's hard enough for y'all to share with each other as veterans, much less a patriot sitting here, a civilian sitting around the fire. Thank you. It humbles us so much when they're willing to share those experiences with folks that never wore combat boots.
Sure.
It shows they trust us for doing what we're doing for them. It's just such a humbling experience.
It is. And it's so special. I can tell you, I was in the Navy, and some of my best memories were when we weren't, doing operations. I was in the air wing. And so we were on the flight deck most of the time launching birds, and it was nonstop, working 15-hour days. Some of my best moments were when we had some downtime and the boys would just get together in the shop and we would just share stories and talk. And it was just so cathartic and just a release of energy. You're just having fun, and before you're just talking and sharing stories. So I think the campfire thing, it just sounds like such an easy thing, but it's so big for these guys to be able to do that and talk, because we don't get that a lot. Once we leave the service, one of the biggest things I hear from veterans is we miss the camaraderie, right? When you go to your office and you go to work, there's not that bond that we had when we were in the military. So to sit around a campfire and talk with other veterans and share stories, man, I wish I had that. I'm going to come down to you, and I would love to sit around that campfire and talk. It just sounds so amazing. And I did want to also say, you guys are located in Florida, right?
Right. We're headquartered in Lakeland, Florida, so about halfway between Disney and Tampa, just to kind of put a pin in the map. We are also registered in the great state of Texas, in the greater DFW area.
Great.
So we're growing and expanding there as well. We work in Florida, about a 12, 13 county area. Florida's got about 1.5 or so million veterans in it. And a little north of a third, about 513,000 or so veterans are in that 10, 12 county area on the Gulf side of Florida. So quite the talent pool to pull from and work with as many as we can get to come out at a time.
How many veterans would you say, you started in 2017, how many veterans would you say have come through there since that time?
Probably somewhere just about 1,000, 1,500.
Wow.
Right in that neighborhood. We're so proud for that. We run this out of our house. What you're seeing behind me is my family room. It's not a fancy green screen, and like a lot of nonprofits, you start with a mission, passion, and not a lot of cash. You do what you got to do till you can do what you want to do. But the really cool thing, that we're so proud of and blessed at the same time is that we're running about a 67% success rate of the veterans that admit some kind of PTS and actually come back and say, hey, what you're doing is helping, and we really appreciate, having us out here doing this. I mean, that is such an amazing thing for something you run out of your house. To have that kind of stat. We're so happy for that.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned earlier on in the podcast, the suicide rate for veterans. So the fact that you're doing something to prevent that and give veterans an opportunity to, clear their head and work through their PTS is, it's really an amazing thing. Thank you for doing that.
Well, it is our pleasure to serve the ones that served us all, because, for folks that haven't been able to see the article, because again, they only talk about it. It's not water cooler talk. It's not, hey, did you see the football game, kind of conversation. But we are at 44 plus a day. 22 has not been a correct number for a long time. And it finally came out. Fox News put the article out, and, they were the brave ones that did. And you're talking 8 states were 44 a day. If the other 42 report like the 8, God knows where we'd be. One's too many.
Yep.
But that's our thing. Fight the effects of PTS on the veteran and the whole family. For everybody out there watching this that's a patriot like me, thank the whole family for their service, because I'm here to tell you, everybody serves. It's just they're not all wearing the uniform you can see.
That's right. That's right. And, and that's a beautiful thing about your ranch as well. And you had mentioned this, is that it's not just for the veteran, it's for the veteran's family, because when a veteran suffers, their family suffers with them. So that's really noble that you do that as well, that you allow their families to come and experience the therapy.
Yeah, everybody's doing something. Nowadays with technology, the kids got it a little easier. I mean, I graduated in 91, and a lot of my buddies went to the sandbox, but we didn't really have technology. Cell phones were $5,000 and cost you $1 a minute. So now at least, sure, they got all the socials, they got everything, but it's still a process of possibly every couple of years you got to move because Uncle Sam said so, and you might have to go to another whole country and learn a whole other culture.
Right.
I was talking to a retired lieutenant colonel the other day, and his kids went to 3 different high schools in the time they were in, because him and his wife were active duty.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, even tougher on the kids.
Sure.
So yeah, absolutely. Whether it's husband serving and the wife's at home, bottom line, somebody's usually home being chief cook and bottle washer.
Yep.
And they need the help and the support too, because there's a whole different kind of PTS that goes, without necessarily being the guy kicking down doors.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: out of the 1,500 that have come through there, what are some of the most memorable stories that you could think back of where you were just kind of like, wow, this thing will work? Like, I guess even a better question is, when did you first realize from seeing the therapy go, wow, this actually works? Like, we have something here. Is there a story that you remember, or a certain veteran?
Well, the 2 I mentioned were extremely powerful. That's why I share those stories a lot. Because again, here you got a grown man, 29, 30 years old, with probably another 20 people surrounding him, just breaks down crying like he's 2.
Yeah.
That's not a manly thing to do, but he had no control over it. It just melted off of him. Seeing that husband and wife get together in a closer bond like that. But, sometimes it's really gone back to just something as simple as seeing a smile on a veteran's face.
Yeah.
They may not really in their mind be going through stuff, but we've all walked through some things in our life. You're a different person after 8 weeks of boot camp. You can attest to that.
True.
You're no longer the young, dumb 18-year-old kid that stepped on the, yellow boot prints off the bus. So to see that smile on her face by simply throwing a leg over a horse or just petting it, I tell you, it truly is as therapeutic for us as it is for them. And that's where we knew, because we had seen the data, and equine therapy is growing as a alternative therapy in the veteran space. And there's been decades of data as to what it's done for special needs, the autism spectrum, to this day. So we just knew we didn't want to be white noise and just be another dog program. Although, don't get me wrong, I love dogs. My 80-pound lap dog's in another room. I've had a dog in my house since I was 8. one way or another. So we love dogs, but there's a lot of great programs, and we weren't trying to fit into a space. We wanted to be our own niche.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, we call them God's majestic animal for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, the loyalty, my dad actually calls horses your seventh sense.
Wow.
It is your buddy in your unit, because, there's that loyalty, right? You brought up the point. You get out into corporate America, there's not that loyalty. It's, hey, suck it up,
Right.
Buttercup. You don't wear the uniform anymore.
Right.
You're no longer, private first class or sergeant, whoever. You're now just Bob Johnson. No, you're still Sergeant First Class Bob Johnson.
Always.
Yep. First Sergeant Smith, whatever. I mean, that's who you are. Yeah. And so when you can put all that stuff together and bring those veterans with these animals, they are that guy in your unit that knew everything about you, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the worst, right? Yeah. All the stories that, you better not tell anybody. And yet there's no judgment. They're there to get you home. You're there to get them home. They say no atheists in foxholes. I mean, that's a horse. Yeah. A horse will literally run for you at top speed until, as long as you ask it to, until its heart explodes and dies.
Wow.
Now, we obviously don't want to ever see that happen.
Of course.
But that's loyalty that y'all don't see outside of the uniform.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just, I'm telling you, man, they're such amazing animals. It gets you.
Yeah. You had touched on your dad. Your dad was Navy, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
What do you remember about his story and his time in service? Did you guys talk about that at all?
A little bit. The Vietnam era, just call it what it is. They're treated like hell. Yeah. And that's about as clean as I'm going to say it, because it was a lot worse. He was wearing his whites coming through San Francisco International Airport, getting spit on by Hare Krishnas and hippies, getting called baby killer, and they didn't know him or what he did or, whatever. Yeah. He was on the dual 50s, on PBRs, running Marines upriver out of Da Nang. I know he got to see the worst humanity had to offer at the time. Don't talk about it much. In that regards, I know the funny stories of stiffing the jeepneys, to make sure you make Cinderella Liberty, so your butt didn't have to go before the man, and and all that kind of stuff. The only funny war story I know, and I call it funny because I've shared this before. My grandmother was Austrian, straight off the boat. Between all of us, both sides of my family were German, Irish, Austrian, and Native American. So pick the chip on the shoulder someday.
Yeah, sure.
My dad's 5'9". I got height from my mom's side of the family, but he's on a hot beach. And, Vietnam was one of those wars where, they did everything they could to, put reporters in and try and bad stuff and put bad stories out back home. And out of nowhere comes this, how you feel about this war reporter. And he's trying to tell him how to, just go get cover, get away from me, whatever. And the guy's still trying to ask questions. So he pulls his combat 45, puts it to this reporter's head. That's what made, he got mortar fired, everything else going on. But this is what made this reporter crap his pants, right? Sure. He said, look, I'm getting off this beach alive. And if you want to get the F away from me and go find some cover right now, or I'll shoot you where you stand. Jeez. The only thing that makes that funny is I can picture my dad doing that, 10 feet tall and bulletproof at 5'9". It's like, just that, again, that fight or flight, like, hey, I'm making it home. That's right. You got a microphone. I got a gun. Get away from me.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that's probably the only funny. And it's, it's not that funny other than the fact that I can picture my dad doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I get it.
Yeah, he doesn't talk about it much, but there's still things to this day that I think a lot of veterans can relate to. Mm-hmm. If he's taking a nap, you call his name from a distance.
Oh, yeah.
You don't come up, tap him, shake him. What are we, 50 years now past Vietnam? And still to this day, you do not do that.
Yeah.
You got to talk a little louder now. He's got 6% hearing in his right ear and about 65 in the left, some hearing loss because, we don't laugh, but we kind of chuckle at the faulty earplug lawsuits, out there. Oh, yeah. He's like, and we didn't have time to stuff toilet paper in our ears, we're getting shot at, dual 50s, we're shooting back,
I mean, even when I was in the early '90s, it's like there was no ear protection. I mean, sure, they give you these things, but nothing fits right. It's like these headphones. If they were my cranial that I wear for ear protection, they would look like this. So they're halfway off my ears, and you just have to do your job. You can't stop flight operations. You can't stop working because so.
Yeah. Good person on our board. She's a Blue Star mom, and her son's active duty Air Force. And yeah, he's got that, he's got hearing loss because even with those headphones on, you still can't hear half of what's being told to you.
Right.
So he's got one half off so he can hear what's going on. But, he's a machine gunner. So, he's rattling off that machine gun, trying to hear orders, so yeah, he's got the hearing loss as
right,
well.
Right. Well, I love that you honor your dad in this. And I know that your in-laws are also veterans. Talk to me a little bit about how this whole idea came to be, because it's a pretty great story. How I know you said you didn't want to just do another dog type of organization where veterans do therapy dogs. So talk to me. How did you come up with the whole equine therapy thing?
Well, it's good Lord, I tell you. My dad always taught me to keep a legal pad by the bed in case you get an idea in the middle of the night. I was very blessed at a young age. He took me to see Jim Rohn, Tom Hopkins, Larry Thompson, Les Brown. Some of them aren't on the earth with us anymore, but, motivational self-help speakers that, man, I tell you, as a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, made a huge impact on my life. So I always had legal pads, and I had a lot of legal pads, went a whole lot of nowhere. You think ideas are great, and it's like, no, that sucks. I still have the legal pad that has one word chicken scratched on it from October of about 2017, and it says ranch. Had no idea what that meant. We're going to frame it because it's 5 going on 6 years old now, so it's starting to show a little wear. So we're going to frame the front page. But I had no idea, no clue what that meant. Now, at the time, my wife and I wanted a couple horses, our little slice of Americana, and try and figure out what we're going to do with veterans, right? How we're going to help. We didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time. We're going to Bass Pro Shops one day over in Brandon, for everybody that knows where that one is. We stop at Chili's for a lunch because, we're going to be there a while. I'm the guy you can drop off at Bass Pro and pick me up at close, and I won't be bored the whole time I'm there. I can
spend the whole day there, a whole day.
I'm telling you, right? You go to the arcade and, hit the little targets and all that, spend stupid amounts of money, but it's fun.
That's true.
And so we stop at Chili's. Now, the funny part is I've been in sales again since I was 18. I never leave the house without a pen. I asked my wife if she has a pen because I forgot mine that day. The one day I forget my pen. So that's the joke she makes fun of me on for that one. But I asked the waitress for a few napkins because you all know Chili's napkins are tiny. You can't write a whole lot of stuff. But ideas started flowing like water. So about 20 Chili's napkins later, we're writing down the ideas for the Veterans Ranch. And by December of 17, we were a charity. Wow. I can work on cars. I'm from the Midwest originally. I'm a gearhead. I've drag raced, autocrossed. No ASE certified mechanic, but I can work on muscle cars. So my attorney did not set up nonprofits, but he referred me to a lady that did. And as she's going down the pricing structure and everything with me, we're talking about her husband's 76 Corvette and, how he just can't get it running right. I'm thinking in the back of my mind, no offense if you own one, but, you bought a 76 Corvette. It was not the best one they put out. I mean, the steering wheel's off of a Vega. Okay. So, that tells you something. I said, look, I'm going to shoot my shot here, man. You got to take your chances. I said, I'll fix your husband's car. I'm not going to restore the thing, but I'll get it running right. You set up our nonprofit. And I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. She goes, what? I said, yeah. She goes, done. If it makes him stop bitching about that car, done. So when it's right, it's right. I mean, y'all know out there, if you're not pushing the rope uphill or feel that way, it's usually the way it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And by December of that year, we were a charity and, just been doing our best to kick butt and take names ever since starting year 6.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And you had mentioned that you guys had expanded to Texas. And what are the plans for the future? Are you planning on getting this out to more places, or if a veteran is not in Florida and can't travel to Florida in the future, what do you hope to do?
In the future is going to be a few things. One, we're looking at 388 acres in Texas, wow. And we're looking at 310 acres here in Florida. So you're looking at almost 700 acres that we can serve almost 20,000 veterans a year. So, logistics are the easy part, right? We're going to offer short-term housing, all kinds of things on these properties. So, an airline ticket, we can get you out there, get you going through the program for 6, 8 weeks, however long you want to be out there, and go from there. But we're also expanding with our affiliate ranch program. So for everybody out there right now that's got some acreage, some horses, you're not a nonprofit already, and you want to help and you don't know how. You don't want to start from scratch. You're already working a 60-hour-a-week job. You don't want to start another 80-hour-a-week job with a nonprofit. You can come under our umbrella and be us in your backyard. St. Louis, Denver, Dallas, Bakersfield, wherever, right?
Yep.
And you get our brands, our colors, our logos. Take advantage of my 80-hour work weeks. That all, because everything we do with it is with intention. When you go on our website and you see the blue, it's not just because it's my wife's favorite color. It's the most trusted color on the color wheel. There's meaning behind our brand.
Oh, wow.
So you get all that. You don't have to put that time in. You even get your own fundraising link, and you get the majority share. So it kind of works like a franchise, but you're not spending $10 million for the golden arches,
Right. What a great idea. What a great idea to expand and to be able to offer this to veterans all over the country. And if people are listening to this and they want to donate, is there a place that they can go to donate?
Absolutely. Go to theveteransranch.org. Again, theveteransranch.org. You click donate right at the top. Every bit helps, whatever you can do. We ask for $15 a month. It's 50 cents a day. It's doable, right? I mean, give up one thing a month, and we don't tell anybody how to spend their money. But my wife and I, the other night, we went to Subway. Okay. I spent $37 at Subway. I wasn't even really trying that hard. Spent $37. We all know inflation's tough. Cost me still $120 to fill up my diesel truck, which I know that's cheap compared to California, but still it a few years ago, it barely cost me 60, 65.
Yeah.
So we understand that's tough, but you can find $15 a month in the budget. If you can donate more, God bless you. We don't treat anybody any different. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. If you can give $15 a month, if you can give $15,000 a month, or write a check with 2 commas in it, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Because, folks, the word sheep and horse never go hand in hand.
True.
Good hay for 12 horses is over $200,000 a year.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and we're serving the ones that served us all. So help us, support them.
Yep. And is the ranch run all year long, or is it seasonal?
No, all year long. We ran into some issues last year with the hurricanes that came through Florida, and the places we use were 3 feet underwater. That made that part a little tough. But no, year round. Now, as we grow and expand with affiliate ranches in certain parts of the country that get -20 below wind chills and what have you, if they don't have indoor climate controlled arenas, you might get into more seasonal stuff. But again, that's where you reach out to us. And if we have the ability and you have the ability to get you to some, at least semi-warmer climates of Florida and Texas, we want to do everything we can. There's 20 million of y'all from Florida to Hawaii. We want to serve as many as we can, every way we can.
Yeah. And just to be clear again, this is not conflict specific. So anybody from any veteran can come over to the Veterans Ranch, and it's not just PTS specific. It could be any issue, any emotional issue, or just needing some time to bond with your fellow veterans or with the horses. So, don't feel, if you're listening, don't feel like anybody pretty much qualifies. Is that right?
That's it. I mean, again, y'all signed on the dotted line. The joke we always say that I relate with our active duty service members to civilians is the joke between the chicken and the pig. The chicken only has to give up the egg. The pig has to give up the bacon. And that's our active duty service members. Somebody slinging eggs, on a forward operating base may have to, put down their spatula, grab their rifle, and give their last full measure of devotion for their country. That's all the payment we need. So again, it's free. We do not charge y'all for what we do with these therapy sessions.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. JR, you are an amazing guy. It's an amazing organization. You're a true patriot. I thank you for what you're doing, and hopefully I can help you get the word out And when I'm down in Florida, I'd love to come by and just shake your hand and say hello. And I thank you.
Absolutely.
For
We'd love to have it. Thank you for having us on. Thank you for all of your fans out here, watching and listening, and just help if you can. There's, again, 20,000 great Americans a year checking out off this planet that don't need to. We need to get that number down.
Yeah. And it's theveteransranch.org. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Fantastic. All right, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You keep doing the good work, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.